How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. There is a lot of Bitcoin lost, and it's gone forever. Right now, there are millions and millions of Bitcoin that will never be able to be touched, will never be able to be held again, will never be traded again, and a lot of people don't realize that. And if you have some Bitcoin now, if you have one Bitcoin, for example, you are the top 1% of the top 1%. I want to go through some of the numbers and explain why it's so hard to get your hands on one Bitcoin right now and why it's going to become exponentially more difficult in the near future. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification underneath the video so you can see future videos just like this. If this video makes you bullish and you want to start trading cryptocurrency with leverage, there's a link to Margex underneath the video. It's not right for everyone. Leverage trading isn't right for everyone. But in case you want to try to amplify your returns, I've done really well leverage trading. And it isn't as difficult as it sounds, especially during a bull market. Of course, you should know what you're doing. You have to know the risks. There is a link underneath the video, though, and you get a deposit bonus. There's also a link down there to CoinW as well and Blowfin. So there are a couple different options for you. I think it's important to have multiple exchanges, which is why I have multiple links underneath the video. But CoinW and Margex should really help you out there. Now, a lot of people think you need to buy a full Bitcoin. And I realize if you're watching this, you probably know better. But, it's the average person out there, just someone walking down the street. They might not know that you can buy 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin. It's called a Satoshi, right? A lot of people think, if I'm going to go buy a shirt, I have to buy a full shirt. If I'm going to buy a car, I buy a car. If I buy a pizza, I buy a pizza. A lot of people don't realize that you can buy fractions of different assets. A lot of people didn't realize that until recently, that you could buy fractions of a share of a stock. A lot of people don't realize that you can buy fractions of a Bitcoin. They hear Bitcoin's at 70,000, they think I'm never going to buy it. But if you're in this community, you probably know that you can buy small fractions. A lot of people have been dollar cost averaging over time. The problem is, there is a lot of Bitcoin that is lost overall. And the reason I say that's a problem is, right now, a lot of people think, okay, I can buy fractions of a Bitcoin. There's 21 million Bitcoin. Eventually, I'll be able to get up to a full Bitcoin, right? But that's not the case. There are a lot of people that have lost Bitcoin early on, and they just didn't take care of it, right? You don't take care of something that's worth a few dollars as much as you take care of something that's worth $70,000. So a lot of that Bitcoin was lost. A lot of the Bitcoin, when Bitcoin was at $1, was lost. There are estimated to be 4 or 5 million Bitcoin that have been lost over time. If you count Satoshis, if you count the people that threw it out on their hard drives or on their cold storage wallets and have no access to it, or threw out their seed phrases, the people that sent it to the wrong address, right? We used to throw around Bitcoin like it was nothing. There were websites where you could get 5 Bitcoin just for logging on to their website, just for using the Bitcoin network. You could get 5 Bitcoin. There were gaming tournaments where the first place prize was like $100. The second place prize was $50. And then like third through fifth was 25 Bitcoin, right? So it used to be just kind of a novelty, something that people, kind of were playing around with, but didn't treat it seriously. And because of that, 4 or 5 million Bitcoin is lost, estimated, which means there's only ever going to be 14, 15, 16 million Bitcoin out there. The reason I say 14, 15, 16, we don't know exactly how much is lost. We do know that some is stuck as well. There's a decent amount of Bitcoin that's stuck as dust, right? It's in an account somewhere, or it's in a wallet somewhere, and it's just not enough to even make a transaction, right? Have you ever had that where you transfer some crypto out, but there's not enough crypto, or it doesn't round exactly right, so then you don't get every single penny out or every single crypto out? That happens with Bitcoin. And as the network gets more and more busy, it becomes more and more expensive to send out Bitcoin, there are going to be people that have hundreds of dollars of Bitcoin that just don't do anything with it because it's not worth sending. It costs too much to send. I've actually talked to people in the last year that said, oh yeah, I have like $200 worth of Bitcoin, but it's $50 for a transaction. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to touch it again. There are going to be people that are willing to pay a lot, or countries that are willing to pay a lot, institutions that are willing to pay a lot, and push themselves kind of to the front of the line for Bitcoin transactions because they're sending maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. So who cares about a $200, $300 fee? And that will push people to not want to use. Some people won't want to use the network quite as much. Of course, you can use Lightning, but that's not super user-friendly for people that are really new into Bitcoin. So they're going to go with ETFs. They're going to go with other instruments. They're going to keep it on Coinbase so they don't have to deal with sending it different places. And more Bitcoin will be lost to dust or lost to dormant Bitcoin addresses. People lose their wallets. People die and don't really have a plan for where their Bitcoin is going to go. People send it to the wrong address. So that's why Bitcoin's pretty rare, right? A lot of people think, oh, there's 21 million Bitcoin. I can buy one of the 21 million. No, you can buy one of the 14, 15 million. And when you account for all the entities that are just swallowing up Bitcoin and have not sold, do not have any plan on selling, there's less than 2 million Bitcoin. If you're someone that holds one Bitcoin, you are in a rare group of people. There are just over 1 million wallets that have a Bitcoin or more. Keep in mind, a lot of people hold multiple wallets. So when you consider how many people hold multiple wallets, maybe there's 500,000 people that hold a full Bitcoin. At the most, there's probably going to be under 1 million people on Earth that hold a Bitcoin. So when you consider 8 billion people on Earth, 1% of that is 80 million. 1% of that is 800,000. Okay, if you hold one Bitcoin, you are in the top 1% of 1%. It's becoming exponentially harder to buy a Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin sitting at $68,000. There are 55 million millionaires in the world, 60 million, maybe 70 million. It's hard to know because asset prices go up and down. How do you determine what a millionaire is? If you count businesses and stuff like that, housing. But when you consider 15 million Bitcoin, maybe after the Bitcoin that's lost, 60 million millionaires, each millionaire can buy a quarter of a Bitcoin. But again, there's a lot of billionaires that are holding tens of thousands of Bitcoin. So, maybe there's 2 million Bitcoin that those 60 million millionaires can buy. Okay, well, that's not a lot of Bitcoin. That's not much at all. And when you consider, some people will never buy it. I realize that. But when you consider the future, when future generations pass down wealth, they're going to pass it down. Some people are going to say, I've always wanted to buy one Bitcoin. I'm going to sell one of these rental properties. I'll put some of it into buy a Bitcoin, and then I'll keep some of it in cash or something, or go on a nice vacation. Okay. We're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars of wealth being passed on. Some of it's going to find its way to Bitcoin, which is going to push up the price, making it exponentially harder to buy Bitcoin. It's already hard now, right? If you are a millionaire and you want to buy Bitcoin, let's say you have $1 million net worth, you probably have it in your house or in your business or in retirement accounts. Most people don't have a liquid net worth of $1 million when their net worth is $1 million, right? They don't have it all in cash. It's tied up. So if they have 6 or 7% of their net worth that's liquid, they could go buy a Bitcoin. But even that, a lot of people don't have that amount, or they're not comfortable putting it all into one asset like that. It would take time, right? Maybe they put in $10,000 a year into Bitcoin. Well, if you put $10,000 a year into Bitcoin, you may never get a full Bitcoin because the price right now, 68,000, 69,000, could be 150,000 by this time next year, $200,000, $300,000. It's really hard to buy when you're buying $10,000 and get to a full Bitcoin. It's possible, right? You're kind of hoping that crypto falls down. But even if we fall down to $40,000 and you put in a full $10,000, okay, that buys you a quarter of a Bitcoin. And you put in another $10,000 in a year when Bitcoin's at 100,000, okay? Now you're up to 0.35, and it just becomes more and more difficult to buy. So if you have a Bitcoin, congrats. You've made it to the whole coiner club. You might be one of the last people, right? Not literally the last people, but when you consider all the whole coiners that will ever be, and you consider someone that's coming in now, they're much further down the line to like the end of the people that will actually become whole coiners than the beginning, right? When Bitcoin was a couple $100, it was much easier. There were a lot more people becoming whole coiners. but it's going to become more difficult. And there is a lot of Bitcoin that's gone and lost forever. So you have to factor that in as well. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. Do you think it's going to become exponentially harder to buy Bitcoin? I appreciate you guys watching. There is a link to Margex and to CoinW underneath the video. Of course, you can start trading there. You can amplify your returns. You can bet against the market if you want to do that. You can do whatever you want. I would not suggest that, but it's definitely possible on the platforms. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the future videos.